We bring in now pollster Frank Luntz, a former Republican strategist. Good morning. Here is the question.
Good morning.
Is this a one-day story about Clint Eastwood, or is it more important because it did not give an audience at home to see a video that everybody thinks was well done and gave a really interesting insight into Mitt Romney?
Well, I have to answer yes to both questions. I don't think by this weekend you're going to be hearing anything about Clint Eastwood, but the fact that we are talking about it now means not talking about the language and the presentation that Mitt Romney put forward. It was so essential for him to introduce himself, his personality, his family, what he thinks, who he is, not just what he believes, Charlie, but who he is. And he did that effectively in the first half of his speech. But because we're focusing on Clint Eastwood, it's not what Romney wants to be doing right now.
Much of the focus of the convention was humanizing Mitt Romney, helping him connect with average voters. Frank, I know you were looking really closely at the words that Mitt Romney used in his speech. How many times did he use certain words, and what does that tell us?
Well, he used the word America more than practically every other word combined, and he's trying to draw a contrast between himself and Barack Obama, suggesting, maybe not so subtly, that Romney understands the trials and tribulations of at least the business people and employees, and that Barack Obama doesn't. Here's the key in that. Barack Obama is saying, I get you, the person. Romney is saying, I understand America. Now, which one wins of those, I can't tell you in the last 2 months, but they're both essential components to the messaging from both candidates.
You pointed out, I think he used the word America 90 times, but some words he didn't use last night, immigration, and he did not use the word Afghanistan. And the conservative Bill Kristol wrote this morning that over 2,000 Americans have died in more than 10 years of that war, a war that Mitt Romney supported. Yet in his speech to be commander-in-chief, he said not a word about Afghanistan, nor did he utter a word of appreciation for the troops that have been fighting there. Was that a mistake?
Well, that's been the language that's been used over the last 3 days, and so perhaps Mitt Romney could have done it. But if you've been watching the Republican convention over the last 3 days, they have done salutes to the troops repeatedly, appreciation for them, and even on Thursday night as well.
Yeah, but this was a big night for him to say and to identify himself with one of the important things about being president. You're commander-in-chief, and you put American lives at risk, and show some appreciation for service.
I mean, that's a fair point. You only have so much time. And actually, I do think it's fair to challenge the decision to have Clint Eastwood have so much time, because it took away from what Mitt Romney could have talked about. It took away from what he could have said.
Here's what's interesting.
And in the end,
here's what's interesting, Frank, to interrupt you. Nora could see the clock there and saying that the red light came on saying, get off the stage, and he ignored it for 5, 6, 7 minutes.
Yeah.
There's also this. I mean, you see coming out of this speech, and you see this as a challenge, and this big story today in the New York Times. They have to convince people who like Obama and who voted for him before and are reluctant and have some misgivings about not continuing with him and giving him 4 more years. That's the goal of this campaign. How do they do that?
Well, they did it with a speech last night, but they're going to repeatedly have to do it, and it's going to have to be soft and gentle, Charlie. You cannot tell someone who voted for Barack Obama that they made a mistake. That individual has to come to that decision themselves. And second, you don't want to ask someone to repudiate what they did. You have to say, look, you voted the correct way back then because you wanted hope and change. But the question now is, do you expect the next 4 years to be any better than the last 4 years? And I think the Romney campaign is going to have to ask a lot of those rhetorical questions, not make statements, not push people, but pull them in through those rhetorical questions.
Right. Really interesting points. Frank Luntz, thank you so much. Always good to see you. It is now 8:09.